Hey collectors, welcome to Star Wars Collected. I'm Jonathan. Just finished episode 5 of the Book of Boba Fett, or is this Mandalorian Chapter 2.5, something like that? Not completely sure. I took notes during this episode because as soon as it started off and I realized what was happening, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to remember all this. So I'm just gonna run down everything that I jotted down that I thought was super cool. Just right off the bat, I thought it was a really cool episode. We'll have some thoughts at the end about what it could mean overall, but it felt good. It felt good to kind of be back in this place. Mandalorian was such a knock out of the park, as far as the series goes. So it felt great to be back in there, and it felt so right. So, anyways, Din is back to bounty hunting. Who would have known? Kind of at the end of season 2, he has a dark saber. You kind of think that maybe he might move on to something else at that point. But he's back to what he knows. So that was actually a little bit of a surprise for me. I kind of expected him to, be sort of in this Mandalore liberation mission or something like that, but he's back to being a bounty hunter. So I thought that was interesting. A little clumsy with that dark saber, nicking himself with it pretty severely. Seems like he was healed up pretty well before too long, but that was a bit surprising. I love that the intro music was a mix of the Book of Boba Fett music and the Mandalorian's theme song. I think that was a really cool touch. It was cool to see those two things pushed together and working, I think, really well. The Ring space station planet was awesome. At first, I was like, I love it, but I'm not sure if it's really Star Wars. It seemed a little more Elysium or 2001: A Space Odyssey or something like that. But once they kind of showed you that he was on that planet, it looked so good, and it fit. I loved it. We've seen some things like that before in Star Wars, but man, it looked good, and it looked fresh and original, but it fit, and that's always the sweet spot you want to hit with Star Wars, I think. I love that they decided to shoot that with a long oneer, so once he kind of gets his bounty, the camera just sort of follows him and doesn't cut away, at least once in post-production, at least it doesn't cut away. Who knows, a lot of times anymore they do those with digital stitching, and special effects and things like that, but man, it came across as a really fantastic oneer. One thing that really struck me too is, in this episode, Din Djarin never takes his helmet off, and you can just see what the power of the mask, the power of the helmet does for the Din Djarin character. And, maybe we should have gotten a little bit more of that with the Book of Boba Fett so far in this story. I love Tamora Morrison and seeing his performance and seeing his face and things like that, but there is just a lot of power of just that helmet, just that T-visor stare. So I thought that was interesting. It just really stuck out to me that way. The armor is back. I just did a review on the armor. She's right here next to me, and it was great to see her back. I picked up this character because I thought she was really cool, and she did leave an impression on me in season 1 of The Mandalorian. But then when she didn't show up for season 2 of The Mandalorian, and I believe Emily Swallow has said that she wasn't involved going forward. Obviously, they kind of all have to say that. But I was psyched to see that she wasn't just sort of like a one-season character, that she had an appearance in here as well. And of course, there was also Paz Vizsla in there as well. That is a hot toy that I missed out on and wish I had picked up in retrospect. It goes for a pretty penny on the secondary market, and well-deserved. But it was also good to see that character was not simply, in season 1, died off camera and never to return. So that was cool to see. The little dark saber lesson was interesting, as far as maybe why has to be one in combat, a reference to Sabine Wren handing it over to Bo-Katan in Rebels, and how that didn't work out, and how Bo-Katan, at least from the Children of the Watch, their perspective is kind of responsible maybe for the downfall of Mandalore. That Bo-Katan's rule ended poorly. It was great to see the TIE bombers going over and causing the Night of 1,000 Tears that we've heard referenced a couple times here and there. Would love to see more of that, and maybe we will see more of that at some point. But that was cool to see. It's always cool to see some Empire stuff in there, I think. It was cool to see the Imperial security droids, which are like K2SO. That was a cool reference. He wants to forge armor for Grogu. It ended up not being armor, but that was my first thought. was that he wanted to make something for a foundling, a very specific foundling, someone that my wife and I consider to be our son. We call him Yodi because that's what we, when he was just called the child, we call ours Yodi. But he wants a little something for Grogu, like a good daddy friend. I love it. It's so good. I thought it was really super interesting to see the Jedi and the Mando Creed are opposites of one another, at least as they're interpreting them, and that speaks volumes to when you think about the history of the Jedi and the history of the Mandalorians, and how those two have not mixed well, with the exception somewhat of the Vizsla character, the original Vizsla being the first Mandalorian Jedi. So I thought that was super interesting. Not something I ever thought of before. The blade grows heavier if you fight against it. I thought maybe perhaps that they were speaking hyperbole or something like that, you're not using it properly, so then it becomes, feels heavier, you get tired, things like that. But he was dragging that thing on the ground, and as we all know, that it's really, lightsaber is made out of light, it shouldn't actually have any weight. There seems to be, sometimes the physics on that doesn't quite work, but it's fantasy. It's space opera. It's not sci-fi. But that was super interesting, and I think they did a good job showing that. Armor is a badass. Glad to see she's a badass. We knew she was a badass. She continues to be a badass, and that was cool to see. The duel with Vizsla was pretty cool. Nothing huge came out of that. Everyone ended up in the same place they started. Vizsla just sort of keeps getting his ego checked, doesn't he? Every single time he kind of picks a beef with Din Djarin, he gets put in the corner. They disown him because there's two of them, and they're like, oh, this man who took his helmet off, so be gone. Super strict, reminds me of a religion that we would have here on Earth, or multiple religions we have here on Earth, where if you do X and all we'd say is you can only do Y, then you're ostracized, you're gone, we're done with you, you're damaged goods, things like that. I thought that was super interesting to see that. They always talk about it and you didn't really know what the repercussion would be, and apparently it's just straight up disowning you. So that was super interesting to see. And that he must go to the mines on Mandalore to reforge himself, or whatever the language is that they use to redeem himself in the eyes of the armor and things like that, which quite honestly probably not worth it. At this point you have seen the universe, you've seen that you can take your helmet off and you don't die. Maybe it's time to move on from these very strict interpretations of what it means to be a Mandalorian. But I thought that was interesting. We saw a little Rex droid, that was cool. Taking all his weapons off, but that was hilarious because he just kept bringing more weapons out, taking them out of his sock, every single place that he had them. So that was cool. The space ferry was kind of fun. You think of the Mandalorian being in the Razor Crest or something a little more tactical and rugged or something of that nature, and here he is basically sitting in a very cushy seat as the space goes by him and a little kid looking at him and things like that. Pretty funny. I love that he's missing Grogu. He looks at that little Rhodian kid and he's all green and he's young, and then he looks down at his little pouch of whatever he had the armor make, and that little pouch straight up looks like Grogu. It's got 2 long ears and a little ball in the middle with what he forged. So that was super cute. We got a BD-1 looking droid. That was fun to see. BD-1s from Fallen Jedi, or Jedi Fallen Order, which of course is getting a sequel. We just found that out this week. But what a cute little guy. Cool to see him in live action. Limping around at the end there. Poor little guy. R5-D4. Not like an R5 unit, but R5-D4. You can see it's got the scorch marks from the bad motivator from A New Hope right there. Amy Sedaris calls him R5. So there you go. And I also think there's a Jurassic Park reference there when she's behind the crate and getting pulled. It's got to be a Jurassic Park reference. Huge fan, so that's what it has to be. N1 Starfighter. One of my favorite ships. I love the Art Deco style that you see with a lot of the things from Naboo and the prequels. So that's always been one of my favorite ships. And one thing I really love about this is I think they did so well, and they did better with this than they did with the Mos Vespas. You can definitely look at the Mos Vespas and you can say that is very George Lucas, because George Lucas liked the counterculture of this era, and that's something that he would totally draw inspiration from. Sure. No more hate on the Mos Vespas. they didn't continue to offend us so far. But this, to me, this is very George Lucas. So I'm a car guy. I work in the auto industry on the creative side, and I love wrenching on cars, and I've built a car before and turbocharged it and done all kinds of things to it. So this really spoke to me that they're building, you know, they're making like a hot rod. They're taking this old shell of a vehicle and they're fixing it and they're making it better than it ever was, sort of a resto mod type thing, making it their own. That just really spoke to me as a car guy, and it would really speak to George Lucas, who loved hot rods and things of that nature. So I thought that was an excellent example of the creators going back to what inspired George to inspire new stories within Star Wars, which I think is always a successful recipe when it's done properly. Always a good resource, at least. They say faster than a fathier, which I thought was kind of funny, a little perhaps bold reference to The Last Jedi. Probably my least favorite part of that movie, and I know a lot of people really have issues with it, but kind of a bold reference, I thought. Apparently Jawas are furry. I think in Legends we kind of knew this. I think we've seen some pictures of Jawas, or their hands or their faces or something like that. I even feel like my old toys had sort of like almost like a furry like sculpt to the black areas. I could be wrong, but apparently Jawas are furry. And Amy Sedaris' character speaks Jawa. In A New Hope, Luke Skywalker in the trash compactor apparently used a cryogenic density combustion booster to wedge between the two walls to try to save them. We saw this same cryogenic density combustion booster in, I think, season 1. It was outside of the compound in which the client was staying in. So that was kind of fun to see that random random rod get an actual name and purpose and things of that nature. Baker's Canyon, of course, we'll know by name. He tried spinning in the N1. I hear that's a good trick. I don't remember where I heard that, but I hear it's a good trick to try spinning your N1. My boy Carson Teva showed up. If you guys have not watched Kim's Convenience, you need to watch Kim's Convenience. It is excellent. I believe it's all on Netflix. It was ended or canceled or whatever you want to say way too soon, but Carson Teva is back. Love to see it. One of the many X-Wing pilot helmets that I have on my bench that I need to make. I thought it was interesting though, not only was I excited to see him back, but this also means that the New Republic is patrolling Tatooine. Obviously they're not doing a great job down on the ground as the Pike Syndicate seems to be taking over, but I thought that was interesting. You know, it's an Outer Rim planet. They're always talking about how, you know, things in the Outer Rim, the New Republic, all that stuff, like, you know, their laws or their enforcements didn't make it out that far. That's one of the reasons that the Empire was at times seen positively, is that they, you know, were super oppressive, but at least they were kind of everywhere. So I thought that was super interesting. What else do we have? He says wizard, like he does, like we hear in The Phantom Menace around the pod races. That was interesting. And at the very end, we have Fennec Shand show up, which kind of connects this down to back to Book of Boba Fett. Awesome episode. Loved everything I just talked about. However, this is one of the best episodes of Book of Boba Fett, and there's no Boba Fett. So a little concerning there. It would have been nice to have a handshake at the end or something like that. I mean, it's literally Boba Fettless. And, you know, not that you can't have chapters like that, but it was sort of interesting. It was a great Mandalorian episode 2.5. You know, it's a 7-episode series, and we just had one of them taken up completely by not the main character of this series. You know, awesome to see. Totally enjoyed it. But it just sort of felt like this maybe should have been, in some ways, episode 1 of Mandalorian season 3. So that would be my question about it. I'm hoping, and I'm more sure than ever, that it's going to pay off. This was a great episode. Obviously, the same people are behind this that are behind the other things that we're watching. So hopefully it continues to pay off. Let's talk about merchandise, collectibles, things like that. So I'd love to see that in one. I'd love to see them break out the old Hasbro mold and give us a really cool N1 Starfighter in that rendition. You know, they'd be able to use a lot of the same old molds to give us that. You know, obviously some modifications. They'd have to do the paint differently, but not outside the possibility. Like I said, I have the armor, just reviewed her. Make sure you check out that video if you haven't. but it did really make me wish that I had Paz Vizsla. Even if he kind of got bested again, I just love his like big bulky size and his like very construction worker looking jetpack, and it's just a cool look, just a different look. Those like really carved in, you know, cheekbones on his helmet, cool stuff. Little sorry to see the Beskar spear go. There's a great maker, I think it's like JJ Industries or something like that, who makes a Beskar spear that I've thought about buying many times. I've added it as a carts and just haven't pulled the trigger on it. And when I saw it pop up in this episode, I was like, there's my deciding point. Like, if he does something cool with it in this episode, I'm gonna keep it, or I'm gonna pull that trigger and it gets melted down. So I don't know, what do you guys think? Do you think it's worth buying a Beskar spear at this point? Has that weapon made enough of a impact to how you perceive the Mandalorian to do it? I mean, at the same time, I have that Razor Crest from HasLab on order, and it got blown up at the last season, so I'm a little disappointed it got blown up too. That being said, I also have the sail barge right over here to my left. It also very much got blown up, but that was sort of its purpose. So merchandise wise, like I said, it was kind of Mandalorian again. So I already have my my Mando, you know, season 1, you know, kind of the beat up version, and I've got my Beskar version down here, so I don't need any more Mandos, at least right now. But outside of that, you know, a lot of things we've already seen before, a lot of things that Hot Toys and Sideshow and you know, Black Series helmets and stuff like that have already made for us. So guys, what do you think of this episode? Hop down in the comments below. Let me know if there's any collectibles that you saw in this episode that you really like to see come to market. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like. If you like videos like this, especially also videos about you know, 1/6 scale figures, Hot Toys, Sideshow, and 1:1 scale replicas, helmets, things of that nature, make sure you subscribe. We have new videos here all the time. See ya.